I'm not too accustomed to this sort of thing. I normally do things in the back room. In politics, as elsewhere in life, we often need to ask questions rather than just accepting what we're told. And in particular, when we're dealing with the political establishment and the media, in UKIP, we're used to challenging their arguments and questioning their assumptions. So what I'd like to do today is share with you two such questions which have arisen over the last 20 years or so, one from quite a while back, one from the beginning, and one much more recently. Back in the early 1990s, a handful of us were thinking of starting a new political party aimed at getting Britain out of the European Union. And we were told not to be so silly. Politicians of all hues, but from the Conservative Party in particular, sidled up to us and confided that we would never get anywhere in elections. No fourth party in Britain ever had. And they said all we would do was to mess up their electoral prospects. But they insisted that if instead we stayed loyal to them, they would work tirelessly inside the system to secure Britain's sovereignty. Now, although at one level this was a plausible argument, there was something in it that didn't quite ring true, and it was this. Margaret Thatcher, whatever you thought of her domestic policies, was unquestionably a powerful political figure. In fact, one of the most powerful British prime ministers of the last 200 years. And Margaret Thatcher, in her heart, was firmly opposed to the idea of a European superstate. You may remember her speech in the Commons. The President of the Commission, Mr. Delors, I'm sorry, I can't do her accent. I can't get my voice low enough. Mr. Delors said the other day he wanted the European Parliament to be the democratic body of the community, the Commission, the Executive, and the Council of Ministers, the Senate. No, no, no. You remember? But this forthright defiance of establishment wisdom was a step too far, and it led directly to her sacking a month or so later. So the question that arose in my mind and in that of others was this. If even Margaret Thatcher, at the height of her powers as Prime Minister, and with a majority of over 100 in the seats in the Commons, was not able to stop the drive towards a European superstate, then what chance any of the lesser Tory mortals who came after her? And that was the question which convinced me at least, that a new political party was needed. But we can still ask that same question 20 years on. What chance today those isolated clusters of patriotic backbenchers of whatever political party, whose hearts are in the right place over sovereignty, but who still cling to their old party loyalties, and to the deluded belief that they can do better than the mighty Maggie? They too will fail. But if they really cared about British independence, they would put country before party and join us today in UKIP. For if we could figure out 20 years ago that UKIP was the only way forward, then it's high time that they too caught up with history. My second question is a very different one. It's about policy, and it's one for the economists as much as the politicians. It's been touched on already over this weekend. We live today in one of the most overcrowded countries in the world. Our towns and cities are expanding out over the countryside. Our roads and trains are jam-packed, and our social services are cracking up under the strain. Now, back in the year 1800, these islands were home to some 9 million Britons, more than enough to carry through the world's first industrial revolution. Today, some 64 million people live here, 7 times as many, and that number is rising fast. Yet many mainstream economists insist we must have mass immigration if we are to survive. More immigrants to support the elderly, apparently. More immigrants to do the jobs we've become too lazy to do. More immigrants to bring to us those specialist skills in which we who invented industrialization are now apparently so sadly lacking. So my question to establishment politicians and economists is this: if mass immigration is so good for the economy, then why, from 2008 onwards, has the longest economic downturn since the Industrial Revolution coincided with the largest number of immigrants since the end of the last ice age? They will not be able to give a straight answer. Just as on Europe, so on immigration. The mainstream parties and economists have simply got it wrong, and mass immigration, far from benefiting the economy, has probably contributed greatly to its current dismal state. Since 1993, only UKIP has been consistently honest on these and other matters, and the party is benefiting from this honesty at the ballot box. If we stay true to our principles, if we continue to challenge the establishment and stand up for the ordinary people of Britain, they in turn will vote for us in ever-increasing numbers. And a little way down the line, UKIP will be in a position to give the governments of Britain back to the British people. Thank you.